Hey there, ready to jump into some Atlassian trends? This week we're doing a deep dive into the Atlassian Cloud Release notes from November 11th to the 18th, 2024. We've got updates for everything, Jira Confluence security features, anything you can think of. Really some interesting stuff you might have missed.
Yeah, these release notes, they're like a roadmap. You
Yeah.
can really see where Atlassian is heading with all of this, pointing to some pretty big changes in how they're thinking about the future of work.
Okay, so let's break it down. One thing that really stands out is this focus on branding and personalization. Atlassian's finally giving us custom domains for Jira products, specifically for premium and Jira Service Management standard users. So why is it such a big deal to ditch those generic Atlassian URLs?
It's not just about looks. Think about it from the user's point of view. When you see a custom domain, it says something. It means the company cares about their image, they're professional, builds trust, reinforces their brand.
So it's not just vanity, it's about making things smoother, more integrated, for everyone who uses it inside and outside the company.
Exactly. And that attention to detail, it's there in how they're handling project creation, too. They're rolling out template bundles for Jira and Jira Service Management.
Template bundles.
Yeah, basically you can spin up multiple projects, like 6 at a time, all with the settings already configured for different teams, like marketing or IT, or even your own custom bundle.
Wow, that sounds like a huge time saver. Especially for bigger companies who are always spinning up new projects.
Yeah.
What does that mean for teams that are trying to scale up?
Less friction. Teams can get to work faster. Instead of spending hours setting up a new project and configuring all the settings, they can just use these templates and get going. That kind of efficiency is essential these days.
Right, makes sense. Now let's talk about AI. Atlassian Intelligence is popping up everywhere now. It's getting really interesting.
What's cool is how they're not just using it to automate stuff, they're using it to make us smarter. Like in Jira now, you can get AI-generated suggestions for child issues right there in the parent issue.
It's like having a brainstorming buddy, helping you break down big tasks into smaller ones.
Exactly. And it works the same way in Jira Service Management, too. Atlassian Intelligence can suggest the right request type for a bunch of issues at once, which is super helpful for dealing with those emailed requests that don't give you much context.
So less mental overload. Helps people make decisions faster.
Yep. And it's not just Jira either. Confluence is getting in on the AI action, too. They've got this new feature that summarizes long comment threads.
Oh, wow. I can see that being really useful for teams trying to keep up with all the discussions and feedback without getting lost in a sea of comments.
Exactly. It's all about cutting through the noise and getting to the important stuff faster.
I like it. So it seems like Atlassian Intelligence is becoming this kind of like guiding force across the whole platform, helping users make sense of everything and work smarter.
That's a great way to put it. It's like they're building this invisible layer of intelligence that's always working in the background, helping us be more efficient and effective.
Okay, so we've talked about branding AI, but there's another big theme here. Security Atlassian's taking some interesting steps to make their products more secure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
One of the most notable changes is the evolution of Atlassian Access. It's now called Guard. And it's got some powerful new capabilities, especially when it comes to protecting sensitive data.
What kind of capabilities?
Well, for example, Guard Detect, that's what they're calling it now. It can actually trigger automations when it finds sensitive data in Confluence pages.
Whoa. So it's not just about detecting the data, it can actually do something about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about it. You could set up an automation to automatically notify the right people, restrict access to the page, or even create a Jira ticket to get the data cleaned up, all without any manual intervention.
That's incredible. It's like having a security guard that's always on duty, proactively protecting your data.
Mhm.
That's a huge step forward for organizations that are serious about data security.
Absolutely. And it's not just about reacting to threats, it's about preventing them in the first place. By automating these security processes, you're reducing the risk of human error, which is often the weakest link in any security chain.
Makes sense. So it's like a multi-layered approach to security. You've got the detection, the automation, and the human oversight, all working together to keep your data safe.
Exactly. And this focus on security, it's not just limited to Confluence. It's something that Atlassian is weaving into all of their products.
Which makes sense. Security is becoming more and more important these days. With all the data breaches and cyber attacks, companies can't afford to take any chances.
Right. And it's not just about protecting your company's data. It's about protecting your customers' data, too, which is even more important.
Absolutely. So it sounds like Atlassian is taking security very seriously. which is great news for anyone who uses their products.
Yeah, I think it's a sign that they're really listening to their customers and understanding the challenges that they're facing.
Okay, so we've talked about branding AI and security. What else is new and exciting in the Atlassian world?
Well, there are a lot of smaller updates that are worth mentioning, like improvements to Jira workflows, new features in Confluence, and enhancements to Jira Service Management.
Anything that really stands out?
I think one of the most interesting updates is the way Jira is handling information overload. You know that feeling you get when you're creating an issue and you have to scroll through a million fields that you never use?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's super annoying.
Well, Jira is getting smarter about that. It's going to start learning your habits and automatically hide fields that you rarely use.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A small change, but it could make a big difference in terms of usability.
Exactly. It's all about making Jira more intuitive and user-friendly, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for.
Right. It's like they're finally decluttering the interface and making it easier to focus on what matters.
Yep. And another cool update is the new archiving feature. Instead of deleting issues, you can now archive them.
Wait, what's the difference?
Well, when you delete an issue, it's gone forever. But when you archive it, it's still there, just tucked away out of sight. So you can always go back and find it if you need to.
Oh, I see. So it's like a safety net, just in case you accidentally delete something important.
Exactly. And it also helps to keep your Jira instance clean and organized, which is always a good thing.
Right. So it's like they're giving us more control over our data.
Yeah.
And making it easier to manage.
Yep. And speaking of data management, did you notice how Atlassian seems to be moving away from using the term issue in Jira?
Now that you mention it, I did. It's subtle.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're using more general terms like item or task.
Exactly. And I think that's a sign of how Jira is evolving. It's not just for software development anymore. It's being used by all sorts of teams for all sorts of purposes.
Right. It's becoming a more versatile platform.
Yeah.
That can be adapted to different workflows.
Exactly. And I think that's a good thing. It means that Jira can be used by more people in more ways.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here. But I'm curious to hear your overall impressions of these release notes. What do you think they say about the future of Atlassian?
I think they paint a very positive picture. Atlassian is clearly committed to innovation, and they're listening to their customers. They're making their products more user-friendly, more secure, and more powerful, and they're embracing new technologies like AI. I think the future of Atlassian is very bright.
I agree. It's exciting to see how they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible and making work better for everyone.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's all about in the end, making work a little bit easier, a little bit more enjoyable, and a little bit more productive.
Absolutely. So if you're an Atlassian user, I think there's a lot to be excited about in these release notes. They're packed with new features, improvements, and innovations that can help you and your team work smarter, not harder.
Right on. And that's a wrap for part 1 of our deep dive into the Atlassian Cloud Release Notes. Join us next time as we continue our exploration of the latest and greatest from the Atlassian universe.
See you then.
It really seems like they're trying to make Confluence that central hub for everything knowledge management and collaboration. And those AI summaries really help with that.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of collaboration, Confluence is really stepping up its game when it comes to their real-time whiteboards.
Oh, yeah. They're adding a ton of new features. Anonymous voting, importing Miro boards, even AI-powered summaries for whiteboard discussions. It's like they took all the best parts of Miro and brought them right into the Atlassian world.
Wow, that's huge. For teams that are already using Atlassian, having all those tools in one place can really streamline things.
Totally, and streamlining is what it's all about.
Right. Speaking of which, did you see those updates to Jira? The ones about information overload?
Oh yeah, I've definitely felt that. Scrolling through endless fields when you're creating a Jira issue.
The worst.
Right.
Well, Jira is getting smarter about it now. It'll actually learn your habits and automatically hide fields that you don't use very often.
It's great. A small change. But it could make a big difference, especially for teams with complex projects and custom fields. And what about that archiving feature? Instead of deleting issues, premium and enterprise users can just archive them now. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a different way of thinking about data. Instead of deleting things permanently, archiving lets you keep your workspace clean, but you can still find the data if you need it later.
It's like a just-in-case kind of thing.
Yeah.
And speaking of subtle changes, did you notice how Atlassian is moving away from using the word issue in Jira?
Yeah, that caught my eye too. It's a small thing, but it shows that they're trying to make Jira more inclusive. Not everything's an issue, right? And lots of teams are using Jira for all sorts of things, not just software development.
Yeah, It's like they're acknowledging that Jira's grown up. It's become this versatile platform that can adapt to pretty much anything.
Exactly, which is pretty cool. Now, we've talked a lot about Jira, but what about Jira Service Management? What's happening over there?
Oh, yeah. What are some of the trends you're seeing there?
Well, they're really focused on making things easier for admins and improving the experience for service desk agents. For example, they've added bulk management for customer accounts, so admins can select up to 1,000 customers at once and do things like delete or migrate data.
Wow, that'll save admins so much time. No more clicking through each account one by one.
Right. And they've also streamlined the way issue security is handled. For company-managed service projects, everything's in one place now, so it's much easier for admins to control who can raise requests and view issues.
So it's simplifying security management, makes things less error-prone.
Exactly. And for service desk teams, there's this new Issues for Attention insight. It highlights issues that are blocked or stuck, so teams can focus on those high-priority items first and avoid bottlenecks.
That's a really smart way to use data to help teams be more effective. And you know those emoji shortcuts that a lot of teams use in Slack to manage issues? They're powered by Jira automation now.
Oh, yeah. That's a great example of how they're bringing everything together. Now, admins can manage all their automation rules in one place. Makes things much simpler and more transparent.
It's all about consolidation and streamlining, which seems to be a big theme with these release notes.
Definitely. And speaking of themes, we can't forget about AI. It's not just in Jira and Confluence anymore. It's making its way into Jira Service Management, too.
Yeah, I'm loving that feature where it can draft replies to customers based on comments from similar resolved requests.
Oh, yeah. It's like having a super smart knowledge base. It can analyze past conversations and suggest responses, saves agents a ton of time, and it makes sure that everyone's getting consistent information.
It's a win-win for both the agents and the customers, and for teams that use assets in Jira Service Management. They've got enhanced visibility for assets objects within change management features.
Yeah, that's really useful for teams that rely on assets to manage their IT infrastructure or other important assets. By connecting assets data with change management, teams can make better decisions and avoid disruptions.
It's all about connecting the dots between different parts of the service delivery process and being more proactive. And that's Jira Service Management. Now, what about the future of product development? What's Atlassian doing there?
That's where Jira Product Discovery comes in. They've got a bunch of updates aimed at improving collaboration and giving teams better insights into the product development process.
I saw that you can collapse groups of ideas in the board view now, which would be really helpful for managing and prioritizing a ton of ideas.
It's all about decluttering and focusing, so you can see the big picture and make strategic decisions about which ideas to go after.
And there's that new feature that lets you copy project field values to a new global field. Makes it much easier to standardize data across projects.
That's huge for organizations that are scaling up their product development. By creating global fields, they can make sure everything's consistent, and it's easier to analyze data across multiple projects.
It's all about being data-driven, which is essential for any company that wants to stay ahead of the game. Now, let's go back to Confluence for a minute, because there are some really interesting things happening there, too.
Oh, yeah, those collaborative whiteboards. They're getting a major upgrade. Anonymous voting, importing Miro boards, AI-powered summaries, even a direct link from your Jira backlog.
It's like they're building this all-in-one workspace, where teams can brainstorm, plan, and execute projects, all without ever leaving Atlassian.
Exactly. And those AI summaries are going to be a game changer. They'll help keep everyone on the same page, especially in those big complex projects, where it's easy to get lost in all the discussions.
Totally. And speaking of breaking down silos, Confluence now lets teams share their work with people outside the organization.
That's a big deal. It opens up so many possibilities for collaborating with external stakeholders or clients. It's all about transparency and better communication.
Yeah, it's creating a more open and collaborative environment, which is so important for innovation and success these days. So what other trends are you seeing in Confluence?
Well, there's that new feature for transferring page ownership between users.
That's a really practical update. Make sure that content doesn't get lost if someone leaves the team. It's like a digital chain of custody for your most important documents.
Exactly. And for teams that are switching from Notion to Confluence, they've got a new bulk import tool. Makes it super easy to move everything over.
That's smart.
Yeah.
They're making it easy for people to come over from Notion.
Yeah, it's a good move for them and for users. And lastly, for Compass users that are connecting to GitHub, there's an important update.
Oh, what is
They
that?
need to upgrade their Compass GitHub app. It's so Compass can get pull request data, which will give them more insights into development progress and code quality.
So it's all about connecting the different parts of the software development lifecycle. and giving teams a more complete view of their work. It's amazing how much is happening in the Atlassian world.
I know, right? It's really impressive. It's clear that they're not slowing down. They're continuing to innovate and evolve their products.
Yeah, and all these updates, they really show that Atlassian is focused on a few key things. User experience collaboration, and of course, AI.
Definitely. It's exciting to see how they're shaping the future of work. It's really impressive. They've got this vision for how teams will work in the future.
Yeah.
And all these updates, it's all connected.
Yeah, it feels like they're building this ecosystem where everything works together, the data flows, and AI.
Yeah.
It's like this invisible helper, making us smarter and more efficient.
It's like they're creating this digital workspace that just gets how teams work, you know? Instead of making teams try to fit into some rigid system.
Exactly. And that reminds me of another update. Those Confluence whiteboards, they're getting a serious upgrade.
Oh, yeah. Those are getting really good now.
Yeah.
Anonymous voting, importing from Miro AI summaries, even a direct link from your Jira backlog. It's becoming the go-to spot for brainstorming, planning, making decisions.
I love that direct link from Jira. It connects the dots between ideas and actually doing the work. You go from brainstorming to action, just like that.
No more silos.
Right.
And those AI summaries, they're going to be so helpful, especially for big projects where the conversations can get out of hand. It's like having a note taker who pulls out all the key points.
Exactly. And speaking of breaking down silos, Confluence now lets teams share their work with people outside the company.
That's a big deal. It opens up so many possibilities for working with clients and stakeholders. Everyone's on the same page. It just makes communication so much easier.
It's all about transparency and collaboration,
Right.
which is essential for innovation and success. So what other trends are you seeing in Confluence?
Well, they've added this new feature for transferring page ownership between users.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. It makes sure important stuff doesn't get lost. If
Well,
someone leaves the team, it's like having a digital record of who owns what.
Exactly. Keeps things organized. And for teams who are moving from Notion to Confluence, they've made it super easy with this new bulk import tool.
Smart move. Makes it simple for people to switch over.
Yep. Good for Atlassian, good for users. And one last thing. For Compass users that are using GitHub, there's a heads up.
What is it?
They'll need to upgrade their Compass GitHub app so Compass can get pull request data. It gives them better insights into how development is going and the code quality.
It's all about connecting those different parts of development, giving teams a full picture. It's amazing how much is happening in the Atlassian world. It's inspiring.
Totally. And it all points to this bigger trend of Atlassian really focusing on the user experience.
Making their products more intuitive, more powerful, and more enjoyable to use, which is what it's all about.
Right. Absolutely. It's not just about features. It's about making work better for people.
Exactly. Well, I think it's a great place to wrap things up. We've covered a lot of ground today, from branding and AI to security and workflow enhancements. It's clear that Atlassian is constantly innovating, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah. They're really setting the bar high for other companies in this space.
And for our listeners, I hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the trends shaping the Atlassian ecosystem and what they might mean for your own work. As always, we encourage you to explore these updates further and see how they can help you and your teams work smarter, not harder. Until next time, keep driving.